everybody, it's Donna. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm showing you how I made this cute little folio that will hold gift cards holders and tags for Christmas. I know it's not the right time of year, but what the heck. I am using some old DSP. You can use whatever you happen to have around. You will need, for this project, 3 sheets of cardstock, 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I'm using Mary Merlot. I'm also using, as I said, some old DSP. These instructions will be put on at the end of the video, as well as a diagram as to how I scored them. So there's the 3 pieces of cardstock that I needed. I also needed 2 sheets of designer series paper, and then I needed 1 more coordinating designer series paper. This is basically all I had left in my stash. These are probably from a couple of years ago. Okay, so for the first sheet of cardstock, I need to cut it to 10 3/4 inches instead of 11 inches. So there we go. I cut it to 10 3/4. Then I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, and we're going to score it on the 8.5 inch side. We're going to score it at 3 inches. And then we're going to score it, and down the 10 3/4 inch side, we're going to score it directly in half. And I believe that will end up being 5 3/8. Okay, so that's going to form the middle pockets for the folio. Then I'm going to take the full sheet of 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to score it 3 inches from the bottom on the 8.5 inch side. That makes the folio about 5.5 inches tall. On the other side, the 11 inch side, this is where it's not confusing, but we have to put in the spine for it because the other sheet won't, or the other folio won't fit inside. So instead of going right down the center, you're going to go 1/8 on either side of center. So that will make it 5 3/8, as well as 5 5/8. And then that little piece in the center becomes the spine. We're going to score and burnish all our score lines, which are basically just 3 of them. And then as well, we need to cut away the little piece at the bottom. You'll just see them in a minute. It's part of the spine that we don't need for when we fold it up. So that's the spine there. And then we need that little piece right there in the center. We don't need that for anything, so we're going to cut that away. I'm just cutting on either side of just slightly on either side of the score lines, just so I don't have any ridges on the pockets, because the bottom pieces will form the pockets when we fold them up. So just carefully cutting those away, that away. And there you can see when you fold them up, those will form the pockets on the inside. And you can see the spine there. Okay, on the other piece, we're going to burnish and fold the 2 score lines that we did. But this one, the only reason I'm going to cut the score line just like I did on the other one, but I'm not. It's just so that it lays flat. If you didn't do that, you'll see in a second that when I fold it up, if I fold it up like that, it will not lay flat. There's too much bulk in there. So I'm just going to cut along that score line, and I'm just going to trim a smidgen off so that it will lie flat. And there, you can see there what I mean by that. So now it's lying flat, and that will fit inside our other piece that has the spine on it. Okay, now from the remaining piece of cardstock, I need to cut 3 pieces to measure 3 by 5 3/8, and those are for the other pockets that weren't formed from the original sheets of paper. And this is so I can put a pocket in the front, and on the middle piece I can put a pocket in the front and the back. You could also do another one and put one right on the very back of the whole folio, but I chose not to do that. Okay, now we're going to come to cutting the DSP. Out of the two sheets of DSP, we need to cut pieces 5 1/8 by 5 1/4 for a total of 8. And you'll have just those little scraps left over. Just be careful if they're patterned that you make sure that this folio is taller than it is wide, even though it looks the other way around. And I did the same thing with the other piece, only this one I need 7 pieces, which would be 5 1/8 by 2 3/4. And those are just for the pockets, so I can have a little design element on the pockets. Now, before I round the corners, I wanted to make sure I had the orientation correct on all my sheets. So I'm just lying them out inside or where I want them to be, because I really only want the corner to be on the outside 2 corners. You'll see in a bit what I mean. So on this one, it would be the bottom right that I want to punch, as well as the top left is what I'm punching. So on that one, I only needed 1 corner rounded. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the green. And then on the other DSP, it's going to be the top and the bottom, but same on the right-hand side, because I'm not punching the corners on the left, obviously. You don't really need even around the corners, but I do think it adds finishing touch. On the whole piece, I just wanted to show you that you still corner rounding the 2 rights, but you are going through the whole pocket and all, so it's a little bit more stiff, a little bit harder to get through both pieces. So you're corner rounding it while they're folded. And I'm doing that in the front and the back. And I'm going to finish off all the other pieces in the same manner and make sure that I do have them oriented the way I want them to be. And then there they are. I just separated the inside from the outside. And I'm going to start gluing them down using some Tombow Mono adhesive. Before I glue the front piece down, I'm going to put on some ribbon. This is how I decided to do it. You could probably do a closure a different way, or maybe not have a closure at all, but I just found that because you're putting things in there that it could be a little thick, that it would be great to have a closure. I'm just finding the middle of the side, just because I'm going to put a little glue dot there on the back and front, just to hold down the ribbon that I'm using. Just to secure it long enough for me to put down my front and back pieces. I'm just going to use, trying to find my glue dots there. I'll just pop one on the front, put down the ribbon, and then pop one on the back as well, and put down the ribbon. In this case, the little pick tool or pick me up tool really helps with that. These pieces of ribbon, I believe I did about 6 inches, maybe a little bit more. I know I trimmed them a little bit afterwards. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little glue dot on the back and put the second piece of ribbon there. You could also choose to go around the whole thing and put lace on the spine if you like instead, and that will secure your ribbon, and then tie the bow in the front. But this is how I did it on this one. I also didn't really have a lot of Christmas stuff to choose from. And now you can see once it's glued down, it will hold that in. And now I'm going to start gluing everything down, as well as the pockets will need to be glued. Now just remember, the pockets only need to do the 2 sides and the bottom, unless it's one that's already attached to the cardstock, and then you don't have to do the bottom at all. You just do the 2 sides. Placing something heavy on the pockets after you've glued them helps kind of make it cure and stick really well to the cardstock. As you can tell, it seems like a complicated project, but it really isn't. As long as you have your measurements correctly and you're mindful of any patterns on your DSP, then it will work out fine. You can already see it coming together there. Doing the outside pocket now. And that's where I'm saying you only need to do the 3 sides. Obviously, if you glue the whole thing down, it wouldn't be a pocket anymore. Just make sure it's lined up with the curve, the corner. And then the 2 inside pockets. It was easier to do it lying flat, so the 2 inside pockets. I'm just using a little, I think that's a Tim Holtz tool to squish it down. You could use a brayer, you could use a gift card. There is some glue sticking out that seeped out a little bit, but I'm just going to use one of those erasers, adhesive erasers, to remove anything that doesn't show up. Now I'm thinking that I need to reinforce the spine just a little bit. And I should have done that before I closed the pockets up on the inside, but then I decided I could also just do it on the outside. And that will also hold my stitching in when I stitch the second pocket on the inside. This is just a little Santa Claus from a couple years ago that I decided to use as embellishment on the front. I also just typed out on my computer tag keeper and then punched that out using the ovals, coordinating ovals dies, one with the scalp and one plain. And I'll just use that for the front of that. This is the thread I'm using. You could use maybe crochet cotton or embroidery floss instead. I'm using, I think this is called invisible thread. It's just something that I had in my stash for whatever reason. The only thing with that is it's really hard to see. Even on the video you don't see me with the thread, so it's probably easier with the embroidery floss. But this way you didn't see it on the inside either. Now normally when you're doing stitches like this, you punch 3 holes in your pieces all at the same spot, and then you start from the center on the inside, and then your string will be on the inside. I decided not to do that because I am putting the reinforcement on the outside, and that way that will actually cover up the string so it won't be seen. I'm just going to thread the needle, and then on the other end of the needle, so that I don't pull it all the way through, I'm going to attach a paper clip. That I'll remove that later, but that's just so that I don't pull it all the way through and have to re-sew it all. It is a little fiddly to hold on to it all and sew it through. Now I'm not doing anything major here. It's not like I'm putting together junk journal or something like that. So I'm not really too concerned with it being absolutely perfect. Now I'm just going to take the inside piece, put it in the outer side piece, and make sure I can match it up perfectly. I am going to measure down approximately 1 inch on the inside piece from the top and then from the bottom as well. And then I'll put a pencil mark right in the center. And that just gives me some kind of guidelines so the holes are kind of uniform or spread apart the same distance. And then I'm going to take my pokey tool and just go through those holes on both pieces. It's not hard to go through. Usually I put it down on a mat and just poke it through, but in this case, because I wanted to make sure it was lined up on the outside piece, I didn't do that. When you're doing junk journals, generally you have a template, but in this case it's just so small it wasn't really worth the trouble to go through all that. And then I'm just making sure that the inside piece is in the center of that spine as much as I can. And then I'm going to take my pokey tool and just poke through those 3 pencil marks that I made. Well, I said it doesn't have to be perfect, but I want it to be as close to perfect as I can get. This is probably maybe the hardest part. Okay, now I'm going to pick up my needle and thread, and as I said, you can't see the thread, but it's there. And I'm going to start from the outside because I want my tail to be on the outside. Sorry, you can't really quite see that there, but that's what I'm doing. I'm going through the hole, the center hole, and then the paper clip is going to stop me from pulling it all the way through. And then I'm going to go out the top one. And then I'm going to go all the way down, and my thread just kind of got caught up on the page. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom one Now there's many ways you can sew it in. Sew it in whichever way makes sense to you, or your preferred method. You could even, if you had a long arm stapler, you could probably even staple it in. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm just trying to move that out of the way. It's just there's a lot of string there. I probably should have made it. I did mine about 3 times bigger than what the piece was. I probably didn't need that much. Down through the bottom. And then I'm on the other side, I'm going to come up through the center so that the 2 strings will be on the outside. And I'm just going to tie those 2 together. And that will hold it securely. Because this is invisible thread, I think it's a little sleek, so I think it would fall apart really easily, and that's why I thought it was important for me to put it underneath the reinforcement, which is going to be simply some washi tape. I am pulling it tight, but you don't want to pull it too tight, because if you pull it too tight, you'll actually rip the holes. I'm just going to cut away from the extra string that was getting in my way. And then just tie it in a knot. And then I'm going to put each string going in opposite directions. And I'm just going to try to hold it down kind of with some stamp blocks just to keep it out of my way. Now washi tape's not exceptionally strong. We all know that. So I'm going to put down some glue on that spot. One, it'll help keep the strings, the thread, stuck down. As well, it'll help keep the washi tape stuck down. Now I'm using one that's the washi tape is just wide enough, just covers up and goes over the edge a little bit of the spine. Now it has to be, my spine is about 1/4 inch, so this was slightly bigger than 1/4 inch, the washi tape was. I'm just going to put some glue right down the center. And then I'm going to tear off a piece of the washi tape and lay it down on top. While I'm doing that, I want to make sure that I can still fold it. I don't want to do that while the glue is still wet, so it has time to move. This washi tape is stamping up as well, but it's from a few years back too. You could also put lace here if you wanted. I think if I was to put lace, I think I'd still put some washi tape just to reinforce the spine a little bit. Now I'm going to just cut off the little pieces at the end. And I'm just making sure it does still fold nicely. Just making sure it's really stuck down. Okay, now I'm just going to decide where I want the embellishments for the front. And I'm going to stick down the one. You could actually embellish the whole thing, the inside pockets as well. I decided not to do that. I decided I would just do the outside pocket. You actually don't even need a pocket on the outside. You could just embellish the outside really pretty and not worry about putting a pocket on. But I figured the pocket gave me an extra spot to put other things. Then I'm going to put some red rhinestones on mine. Well, not right. Yeah, rhinestones. I think sequins would have been better, but this is what I had, were the red rhinestones. Then I found some bows. These are from a couple years ago as well. I just thought an extra bow would on the outside of it would, and this color was, I think this probably was Tranquil Tide or something, but I just thought that would add a little element, and it gives a chance to use up some of my stash that haven't been using. And then I had these tassels also from a little while ago, and I decided a gold one would be really pretty to attach the outside at the corner on the spine. I'm not showing you how I did it, but all I did was just sew that in with a bit of thread as well. And there you go. There's the finished one. Now I'm just going to add some tags to it. This is actually going to be a gift for my secret sister in our team. We had a secret sister for 3 months. This I'm actually going to be sending to her. I think this is going to be the month of May because we're doing it for 3 months. I don't believe she's on my YouTube channel, so I'm sure I'm good. These are ones that I made, tags I made a few years ago. Some of these tags I actually made out of old Christmas cards, etc. And there's gift card holders in there too. And then I'm just taking my eraser and erasing any glue that I didn't like the way it looked, that may have seeped out. And there you go. There's the final picture of it. I think it turned out amazing. I think you can use this for many different things. There's just the measurements, as well as you're going to see the diagram that I used. But I don't really think the diagram's super necessary. As long as you have the measurements, it'll turn out fine. You could also do this. It doesn't have to be for Christmas, but most people don't put tags on their birthday cards and stuff like that. And there's the measurements for the one with the spine. And then there's going to be the measurements for the inside pocket that simply has 1/4 inch cut off of it. And that's because we're taking away the spine. As well as the pieces for the inside pocket and the DSP for the inside pocket. Sorry, one's upside down, but as I said, the measurements are on that first sheet. I hope everybody is staying safe and has a wonderful week, and we will catch you next time. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.